Jerry here, Execute Fitness, and welcome to this amazing video that is going to be teaching you something very unusual that you don't hear all the time. Today I want to be teaching you the 10 reasons why we eat in addition to then survival or in addition to get fed. And especially I want to do that into this module, which is going to go directly into the cravings and binge module, because food, as you know, obviously can be very psychological. There is a psychological part of nutrition, there is a physiological part of nutrition. And problem is that obviously if there is something people still need to learn, it's really being self-aware, right? If you have the habits to work out in a certain time, or to go eat on a Friday night, or if you have the habits of eating chocolate, right? Why would you want to take that away if you can build a plan around it, right? As long as you understand what you're doing, this can be done. You can still build a plan around stuff that you're actually doing in order for you to be successful. Now, how do we do that? We actually must become aware of what we obviously doing wrong first, right? There is tons of time that I get this talking with people about how they cannot succeed even though they're doing everything right. They're probably not aware of some stuff that they're doing. So we're gonna get into that right now. Obviously, number one, pleasure, right? Obviously, there is a bad episode in the day, right? So food can be used or is used by most of the people in a psychological portion when there is to create pleasure, or in a way to kind of cancel what's happening. I mean, maybe you have a fight with your boyfriend, or maybe there is an episode with your boss or somebody, with a friend, something that's not been well. What do, you go home to pleasure yourself, you start eating. At that point, it's psychological for most of the part, because you will start eating and binging on stuff that are usually sweets or maybe salty. That will create dependence, obviously, both on the physiological part and the psychological part. And you, instead of eating maybe one cookie, you end up being 10. For boredom, this is actually one of the very common one as far as being psychological. You may be in front of the TV, or you're doing something that you're not, like you get bored or you don't know what to do. You start thinking somehow. Thought about food comes up, and then you start eating, right? How you remember how that cake was amazing, that sandwich, or maybe you see something on TV advertised as I don't know, like a burger place or something that look very delicious, right? Wow, yeah, you just remember, now I want to eat that. Bad habits, like I just said, one of the most common one is a TV, or maybe in the dinner with your mate or with your partner. You have this glass of wine all the time, or in front of a TV. Then you know that you should be eating those popcorns, or that sandwich, right? Then again, this is one of those things that I say trigger creates obviously habit, right? So if you know that the trigger is the TV, or if you know the trigger is maybe your partner or in the dinner, why don't you change your environment, right? Why don't you go for a walk? Why don't you say to your partner, okay, let's cook something healthy together, right? I mean, if you know that that's what's happening, you want to be able to change somehow your habits. Usually, all this thing I'm describing is really about things that don't necessarily tell you, to eat something bad. You just eat it, and instead of like stopping at that sandwich, stopping at that those Cheetos, or that burger, then you keep, then the chips then get to a beer, the beer then get to a ice cream, the ice cream get to something different. It's all about, it's all like a chain of events. Socializing, that's what I just said before, is almost the same thing as I just said. So basically, yes, to create happiness all together, maybe the kids want something, you're just gonna snack it as well. So this, you have to be careful about that. Dependence, as we know, sugar is being proven to be dependent as heroin. Obviously, it doesn't give the same consequence, but still, if we think in an absurd way, obviously, you becoming obese and becoming maybe diabetic, it will end up getting you to one of the similar routes as drugs, right? You're gonna end up with a disease, you're gonna end up being overweight, and as we know, in 2018, obesity is one of the main cause of people contracting disease and dying. So if anything else, sugar addition at time as fat, you want to be taken into consideration. Take into consideration that it takes about 2 weeks to get off dependence on food, because your taste buds are used to it. So not necessarily you have to cut sugar off, and that's exactly the message. Even though it's psychological, and even though you have maybe a better relationship with food, you want to decrease as similar as when you're smoking, right? I mean, like, you want to decrease less and less and less, and you never want to cut it off. You just want to be able to use it around the working out times. You want to be able to use it once in a while, and it's always going to be a calorie thing, calorie count at the end. But chances are, if you're addicted to sugar, you're consuming way too many calories. Sweet tooth. This is actually very common. At times you go to dinner, or maybe you cook, and especially when you go out into dinner, that's what usually happens. You're full, there is no need to do anything else, but you just have to get a dessert, right? It's a culture thing. Sometimes it's a thing that you save space for the dessert. And this is actually pretty cool, because if you actually plan it, if you do a calorie counting in the day, if you know more or less how much you're going to consume, if you're aware of that, and you're in a good shape, maybe you had a couple of kilograms that still need to lose, but you're in a good place, you can actually put it inside. You can actually plan it. So when you plan something, it's different than having it as a habit that every time you go out to dinner, you need to have the dessert no matter what. No matter if you're full, no matter if you didn't work out, no matter if you are overeating already for the whole day. So you just really need to put into practice the common sense and understand, what did you have this day. If you do have a sweet tooth and you're eating constantly sweet stuff, remember, there's always a calorie thing. As long as it fits in your daily count, you're still gonna be able to see results. Now, this became very sexy when it talks about if you fits your macro type of diet. That as far as cosmetic, you can still do a calorie count and still get away with so many things. Just remember that performance and health in general, doesn't equal that. As putting in your body so much crap, just understanding that it not gonna add up to the calorie, and you're still gonna lose weight. It will not, create performance long term. It's not gonna create health, and specifically, it's not gonna create a good, it's not gonna create a good relationship with food. So my advice is really, plan this when you wanna have a dessert. If you have a sweet tooth, find buffer food. Buffer food is very simple. Are similar food that if you eat it, such as sometimes peanut butter, or maybe like a glass of wine, something that, like, even though it's not the perfect food, is gonna fill you up, or is gonna make you feel a reward within you, that you can actually not eat maybe for a few hours, right? So at the end of the day, you're still consuming it, but you're still doing it in moderation, which is the key. Curiosity, this is a big one. You go to vacation, you go to a Thai restaurant or something like that, you dealing with a couple of things. You're dealing with obviously a different food that you might not be aware of. You're dealing with a lot of things happening in your metabolism, because for most people, the sauces and everything that are included are usually something between sweet, sour, or very, very unique flavors that at times is going to break the homeostasis. So in a way, for some people will be okay, some other people obviously less, because they're maybe just already used to it. But really get aware and get an understanding of how many calories you're consuming, because these foods at times, they contain very, very hidden calories, or they are able to spike different hormones based on obviously what kind of food are you consuming. This is a huge one. Obviously, sad. You obviously you want to calm. You want to fill a void. You got again still similar as previously. You got I don't know. You lost somebody special. You and you stop caring, right? You stop caring, and you just feel like food. It's a reward or something like that is gonna make you feel better. You start eating. As usually, it's not that chocolate like that. There's not like so little chocolate. It's gonna be the whole thing, and maybe a second one. So you want to be able to understand always the root cause of the problem, where the sadness or the problem is coming from. Because if you can be aware, then you can actually take away the trigger and improve. Punishment. This is somewhat complex to see. for many people, but as a kid would do, you just start punishing yourself, right? I mean, like you don't like yourself what you see in the mirror, you just stop caring and you say, okay, whatever, right? I mean, what can this extra burger do today? We'll take care of it tomorrow, right? Or you know, obviously, I'm not gonna go ahead and say that I am any degree on philosophy or sort of actually on psychology as well to be able to explain that the mechanism what's going on. But I have a lot of people skills. I have seen a lot of people like that, and I have an understanding of how this works. So again, this is gonna be for punishment. This is basically saying you don't like what you see, and as a kid would do, you just start hitting by not caring, doing self-destructing thing on you or on you, knowing that it's wrong, but you still want to do it. So this is actually the mechanism going on. And lastly, this is a huge one, and when I finish with this, it's actually pretty cool. Reward. I mean, this is the obviously the most one of the most important, because you eating by reward. You have to understand what is the reward for. You have to understand that eating, what are you gonna eat, and the amount are you gonna eat is gonna be either a reward or it can be actually the opposite, or can actually be punishment. So there is a few ways to see this. So if you're gonna, obviously you want to reward what you're doing correctly, you want to plan to have a cheat meal, you want to go with your friend and actually have the dessert dinner because you're actually changing your habits. What you want to be careful of, these things not happening too often, first of all, and you want to be careful of labeling whatever it is. Like I said, the key of this video is self-awareness, right? So you want to be able to understand a few things. Number one, there is a difference between planning to go and do a cheat meal. There is another difference between having a habit to do it every week, and there is another difference between thinking, okay, I'm just gonna eat that piece of cake, and then the addiction, because you have it within your genes and within your body, it makes you eat the whole thing, right? While this idea with this thing that you hear sometimes, that there is this genes that predispose genes to be obese, people obese, there might be something right on that, but reality is there is a lot of stuff that happens psychologically behind that, and there is a lot of stuff that happens every day that you can change, to become different and to improve. Like I said, I'm not bashing genomic or nutrigenomic in any ways, but there are tons of people with genes of bad stuff such as tumors or such as cardiac disease. They are never gonna have to develop that, or they will develop a very, very late stage because they do everything right. So it's like having tons of of light that you can turn off and on, and you basically turn everything off, and the only one that is on is not going to be able to activate everything else. So you want to be able to dissect everything we saw and understanding the self-awareness. There is a few questions you can ask yourself before you say that, you're not getting results. So are you actually honest with yourself, right? Are you honest, right? Do you understand that, are you really doing everything that you can to do everything right with the workouts, with the nutrition? How do you, obviously, are you, do you know, are you honest with yourself? Are you happy? Even though you're overweight, are you happy where you are? Do you care? Do you actually care to improve? Do you actually care? Are you actually ready to make a change? Do you want to understand that in order to make a change, you need to be ready, right? You cannot say I want to change despite I'm gonna drink obviously 2 bottles of champagne a day, right? There is so if you're happy with that, and if you're happy where you are, then you can actually do it. So it's not really about. So there is always like a small little trade-off that has to happen. This is a huge one, and this is a big one. Are you aware? Most of the people come to me and say, "Oh, I cannot have results," but it's because my body reacts well in a low carb diet. Low carb or high carb ultimately is always going to become on quantity, which is basically calories. This is how we quantify it. So while there might be a difference between when you're in stage or you're not in stage in a contest, if you do low carb or high carb or water retention on all these things, in a regular person life, the problem is that they think eating low carb is better because eating high carb will include tons of bad food that you're not actually get to eat when you are in a low carb diet. So it's not really about low carb or high carb, it's about eating the good amount of quantity, and it's about being aware, because if you're telling me that you're getting food, and you're getting fat eating salads and chicken, a couple of things might be. Number one, you're metabolically exhausted because obviously you're eating a 500 calorie a day diet, right? The other ones, you filling up the condiments with so much oil that you're taking off 2,000-3,000 calories from the oil, right? So you see, both ways is gonna give you two different outcomes, but this awareness is the key. And lastly, this is a big one. Are you stressed? Because if you are stressed and you're not losing fat, most likely is that you have to decrease the intensity or the workouts and usually increase calories as well. So if this, obviously, you want to be understanding where you are and you want to be understanding, obviously, where you can go from here. So hopefully this was what it was meant to be. So you making you more aware. And of course, obviously, hopefully it was helpful for you.